See that turnbuckle right there in the middle of that storm door? Right there, that's the turning part. Well, I'm fixing to take it off and use it on the go-kart. This is how I recycle stuff. You just don't throw stuff away. So here's what I'm going to do. I haven't given up on the electric shifter. I'm going to make a turnbuckle out of this so I can, really get in there and adjust it real fine. I believe I can make it work if I can get it adjusted just right. So what I'm going to do here is, cut these off. And it can't be no more than about 3 inches long. I'm going to cut these off, and I'm going to make me a little clevis on either end. Attach it to the shifter and to the solenoid, and then I can turn this turnbuckle and get it just where I want it. So let me get all this done and we'll give it a try. Well, there's my custom turnbuckle hooked up to the solenoid and the shift arm. Let me get them put in, get it adjusted a little bit, and let's see what it does. Alright, I got it on the go-kart. Let me show you how it does. I believe it's going to work. I'm fixing to take it around the yard and see what it shifts. Basically what I did is I got it to shift and bottom out the plunger at about the same time, and then that gives me room for this arm here to go down to be able to shift down. Alright, I'm fixing to test it out. That's going to be difficult because I got to steer and shift and hold the camera at the same time. So I think I'll just steer and shift with one hand and hold the camera with the other. So here we go. Well, it shifted. I got up to third gear. I'm gonna put it back in first, start it up, and we'll run through the gears again. Here we go. Yep, it shifted. No brakes. I forgot about no brakes. Well, I think that's just awesome, a go-kart with electric shifter. I gotta buy another solenoid and do all this over again. That way I can downshift. And I'm gonna hook it up to relays. I'm not gonna use a push button. I just found that in the drawer just for testing purposes. I'm gonna try, you know how you see the drag racers got their little buttons on the steering wheel. I'm gonna try to get some of them and run them back to the relays. But I think this is pretty awesome. This is probably the best thing about it to me. Alright, now what I gotta do is figure out this wiring. I think I'm just missing a ground on the rectifier after looking at the prints last night. Once I get that figured out, I got to look at these brakes and see what's going on with them. And I got to flip it over and weld the bottom end. We'll take the motor off first. Flip it over, weld the bottom end, paint it. And we're going to be pretty much done, I think. I don't know if I'm doing anything with exhaust. I don't have a bender. So there's really not much I can do. So the exhaust may have to stay like it is for now. But let me get all this stuff done. and we'll take her down the road for a good ride. Well, I gotta wait on that other solenoid. As soon as it gets here, probably Saturday, I'll throw it on. We can head down the road and have some fun in it. Well, fellerettes, I believe you might be looking at the first ever go-kart that has electric shift. I've looked on YouTube and I hadn't seen any, so, you know, I don't know. This may be the first. I finally got it working. It works pretty good. It'll miss a shift every once in a while, but I think it's because I don't have it adjusted just right. But there's both solenoids. That's the upshift, that's the downshift. Let me turn it on and I'll show you how it shifts. This is upshifting. This is downshifting. Every once in a while I'll miss a gear, but it does pretty good. Here's my shift buttons on the steering wheel. This is the upshift, that's the downshift. And let me show you, I got two solenoids right here. That's what does the shifting. The left one is upshift, the right one's downshift. And it seems to do pretty dang good. I've tested the charging system all I can. There's nothing wrong with the rectifier. The regulator looks okay. I'm not getting any voltage from the alternator that's inside here. So it's either a broke wire or the alternator itself is just burned up, not any good. And that kind of sucks because I need full voltage for these shifters. But I've got a spare motor in the barn. I might dig it out and look at the alternator on it and see if I think it might be good. I might do that. I took it down the road and run it through all the gears. Shifting does pretty good. It'll miss a gear every once in a while, but other than that, it does pretty good. It's geared way too low. 40 mile an hour might be top speed. That's how low it's geared, but let me tell you, it gets there real quick. So what I did is I figured out where I messed up on my calculations for these jack shaft sprockets. Basically, I forgot that this motor, I treated it like a lawnmower motor where it's just coming right off the crank. I forgot that you got a primary ratio from the crank to the input of the transmission on this motor. Anyway, I figured that all out, and what I've decided to do is I've got another 18-tooth sprocket coming to put here, and that'll make the final ratio the same as the motorcycle, but it'll be geared lower because the diameter on this tire is smaller than the motorcycle. So I think theoretically with it redlined, top speed is going to be, I want to say around 70, 75, somewhere in there. But it'll be fine because I want it to be geared a little lower anyway because I want power more than top speed. The brakes, they're still junk. If I really stand on it, it'll just barely try to stop it. I even put a vice grip clamp right here on the pad and in the back side of the caliper and just squeezed hard as I could, and it still wouldn't stop it, just rolling it around here in the basement. So let me show you what I'm going to do about that. I got a friend that gave me this Yamaha bike. Thank you, Henry. And I'm going to take the front brake system off and we're going to put it on that go-kart. So let me get started on that. I know y'all ain't going to believe me unless I show you. This is the old cheap Chinese rotor. This is the motorcycle rotor. I want you to look right here. That hole lines up. That hole lines up. That one. That one. That one. And that one. I won't have to make an adapter plate like I did for the sprocket right here. This is awesome. So I'm actually getting a little bit of use out of this Chinese junk. All I got to do is notch for whatever these little doodads are for, all the way around, and then bolt it to this hub. And then I'll have to make a caliper bracket, and then I have to make a new mount for the master cylinder. So let me get this here done and get the axle back under it. Then we'll get that other stuff done. Well, there it is, mounted on a disc, on a hub. I think it'll work just finely. I gotta get the old caliper mount cut off first and put the axle back in. Well, I gotta get this on the axle. Put the axle back in and mount the caliper and the master cylinder. And then hopefully we'll have us some brakes. we now have Yamaha YZ250 brakes on the back of this go-kart. Let me show you how I mounted the front, the master cylinder, because I completely forgot to video it. All I did was, this is what was already here for that other one. I just welded some little extensions up and then welded this little piece of pipe to them so the master cylinder could clamp to that pipe. Had to put a little spring on it because the pedal wanted to fall back. And then I just welded this little nub right here to hit the piston. And that's pretty much it. It don't throw me off of it, but it stops it pretty good. I was just fixing to take it down the road, made it about 100 foot, and the clutch cable broke again for the second time. I don't have any more cable either, so I don't know what I'm going to do there. I got the other sprocket on. I had to do a little grinding on the slot here on the tensioner because this and this, they're just about touching. But I got it fixed. It works pretty good now. That 100 foot that I traveled before the clutch cable broke, I can tell the gearing is much better now. She's gonna move on pretty good. Well, the engine is sitting in the floor. I guess tomorrow I'll flip this thing over, finish welding up on the bottom side, give it a quick paint job, put the motor back in. Guess what? We'll be done. Well, I went ahead and welded up the back side last night, and then today I've been working on solving the clutch cable issue. The issue is the cable I'm using is for throttle. It's too thin. I can't find any thicker. I do have a bunch of old clutch cables. It's a lot bigger, but they're too short. They ain't but about 3 foot long, and I need 7 or 8 foot. Well, what I've done is I copycatted the throttle side. I put me a rod end on it, 1/4 inch rod, and then I did all this doodad stuff here. The cable will be clamped here, and there'll be a bolt sticking up here, and the cable will be clamped in there. And then that way I can use this short cable to go back to the clutch. So that's going to solve that issue, I hope. Now, it's finally time to roll this sucker out, wipe it down, and spray paint it. Now listen to me when I tell you this. Ammonia, that's the only thing you'll ever need to clean metal, wood, whatever you're painting. I promise you, it'll get it as clean or cleaner than anything else you can use. I've been using it for years, and you know what it does? It makes that paint grab like glue. Also, once you get it done, get it wiped down, just before you start spraying it, get you a tack rag and go over it and get all the lint and whatnot off of it. Promise you, you'll have a much better finish. Y'all remember that? Yeah. Like to went to jail over it.
Huh?
Like to went to jail over it.
Oh.
All right, here we go. first. Well. I don't know about y'all, but I think it turned out pretty good. I think it looks pretty sharp. Those white letter tires really look good, I think. It's got a few issues still. Carburetors, I can't figure out the idle. I did remember I said number 2 cylinder was pretty much dead at idle. Well, there was one of these nuts loose on the intake. I tightened it up, didn't seem to help. So I took the intakes off. They got O-rings on them and they were pretty flat. So I put new O-rings on them and that helped it out a bunch as far as the running part. I did end up setting the float level back to stock. Well, close. It's a little bit lower because, you know, once I fixed all the intake leaks from the O-rings and number 2 being loose, well, the float level needed to be brought back up to where it was. I put these cool little pod air filters on it too. I think they look pretty sharp. Still won't idle. Synced the carbs. Still, it didn't help. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing when I'm syncing them. But other than the idle, that sucker runs like a scalded dog, I'm telling you. Clutch wants to slip. You can probably hear it in the video when I'm usually going for like 3rd to 4th and 4th to 5th. It wants to slip. And the only thing to do with there is put a new clutch in it. And I have started having trouble getting the thing in 1st gear. And it's not the electric shifter either. I believe there's something going on internally. Because I can get down here with my hand and it will not go in 1st gear sometimes. So, I don't know, may end up having to tear the motor apart. I did manage to get the exhaust crammed in there. I had to bend number 4 and number 2. And then number 1, I had to put little extensions, weld extensions on there to get it where it would fit in the frame. And that made it look a lot better. Eventually, I will have mufflers. I'm really surprised somebody hadn't called the law on me. Because I rode it quite a bit the last 2 or 3 days, and I'm telling you, it's fun to ride. You saw how fast it was going. It hit 59 there one time. That's in 4th gear. Still had one more gear to go. It'll do 70, 75, I guarantee you. It ain't going to do it with me on it, because I ain't got the nerve I used to have. 10 years ago, I'd have held her in 5th gear and wound it out. Not anymore. This front tire right here, the wheel is bent. Lord have mercy. You ought to see it shake when you're doing 60 mile an hour on it. I just ain't got the nerve I used to have. Eventually, I'm going to get a better gas tank. I'm thinking about if I can find an old, like fire extinguisher. I had this one here, but I want a really old one. Just put it across here and make that the gas tank. This is stuff, you know, I'll do whenever. We may revisit this one day. I may cut the sucker in half right here and just build a whole new front end for a big boy. Put suspension on it, make it comfortable, put some suspension in the back. You know, we may do that one of these days. I am very, very, very proud of that electric shifter. Like I said, it may be the first go-kart with electric shifter. I don't know. I love that though. I think it's pretty sharp. It will miss a gear every once in a while. You have to be careful. I need to put a rev limiter on it for when I do miss a gear. But it's nothing major. You just have to be careful with it. As you can see, I changed the shape of this here. I took that coffin top off and then cut a piece off and put it right here. It looks a little better, I think. And then, you know, maybe eventually I might come off here, come up with a cage. I don't know. It just depends. All in all, I'm happy with it. I think it looks pretty good. Well, this was a fun little project to do. It took me a little while to get it done, but I finally got it. Y'all stick with me. Ain't no telling what I'm liable to build. There'll be some more crazy stuff. Anyway, and who and how, appreciate y'all watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you don't mind, hit that like, comment, subscribe, share it with all your friends. And until next time, go build a go-kart. Bloop.